Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of From the Bleachers Sports Show. This is me, your buddy, your pal, your amigo compadre. Well, and we're not from the bleachers today, but if you could use the visual. Hope all is well. Do want to do a little bit, almost a week late, but better late than never. So goes the saying. Hard Times, NWA Hard Times pay-per-view, my thoughts on the pay-per-view, in general, and not going to go over match by match, just a couple of things that came to mind. First thing, I was really skeptical, a couple of things, and it turns out that it seems like I was wrong for the most part, and that's a good thing based on, what NWA reported. I was skeptical since it was a Friday, pay-per-view, how the numbers would be. But it turns out that actually they were maybe even better than the first pay-per-view that NWA had. This is, actually that that they did actually good. Seems like better than the first pay-per-view, and that's good. Being that it was on a Friday, and I was also worried about that because there really wasn't much build, for the matches, because obviously. The build was, I guess, in a sense, it was the tag titles. Not the tag titles, but the TV title. That was the build. Who's going to win the TV championship? And you really didn't know the matches. You knew the initial set of matches as it started. And then, you kind of, throughout the night, you knew what the next set of matches would be. I was worried about that, type of a tournament kind of being the focal point of the pay-per-view. I worried that, for a young restart company, that might be a little bit too much just hanging your hat that folks would tune in. It seemed like I was wrong. People did tune in, and the numbers seemed to be better than the first pay-per-view. So kudos to NWA, and that's definitely a good thing. When I look at the pay-per-view, out of 10, I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. A 7 out of 10. There are a couple of things that I didn't like. A couple of things, obviously, that I did like. Pay-per-view wasn't perfect to me, but what I didn't like was the matchup between, and this is obviously no particular order whatsoever. The matchup between Scott Steiner and Shooter Stevens, or Aaron Stevens. Listen, I like the intro where they say from a weight that he wishes to not disclose. I like that. I crack up every time that he says that. I'm getting a little bit tired of this, of this karate thing. He has the national championship there, and they have to address it with having it three. It's the NWA National Championship. It's not a karate belt. Please stop trying to, address it as it being a karate belt. I had enough of karate. Let's do, let's do something else besides karate. How about let's just focus on wrestling? So I'm getting a little bit tired of that. It's a little bit cringe to me. A little bit cringe. It's warm. It's welcome. I think he's funny. That was just a moron that drove by. I think he's funny. Don't get me wrong. He is. I just didn't. I'm getting tired of this karate thing by Aaron Stevens. Let's focus on him being a movie star, can we? But anyway, what I didn't like is the fact that this championship was defended against Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner, who has been in one match in the NWA, and he lost. He was on the losing end. He didn't get pinned. He was still on the losing team. And this was in a six-man tag action. It wasn't even like in singles where he was wrestling. So you have a one-on-one with Aaron Stevens. I like the fact though that the announcers they kind of addressed why Scott Steiner is getting a title opportunity, and that's something that makes sense. I think they knew that's something that they would be criticized by the IWC. Oh, why is this guy getting a title opportunity? So I get that. I like that they addressed it. They're saying that basically all this has some pull with the management because what he did for Strictly Business helped them out, offered his services, so on and so forth. This is the repayment. This is the thank you. Okay, well, in that case, if all this is having this type of pull with the management, I would have liked for them to kind of address who is this management. Because for all we know right now, the only management in NWA is Billy Corrigan. Right? Like he is the man, the end all be all, and he is the guy that wants a clean canvas. That's what he's concerned about. Everything on the uppity up. So why would he allow this type of a championship match? Or is there someone? Is it Billy, or is it someone else that's the management? And that's why also I'm going to go hearken and say the same thing again, that I think it's best and that it's a good thing if they could just do, if they could have like some type of commissioner role for NWA. Someone that doesn't show up every week, but someone that shows up every once in a while when need be to kind of make sure that everything is on the uppity up, it's in order, nothing, no rash decisions are being made. So a commissioner role would serve good, I think. And I said it before for the NWA. So I really didn't like that match, at all. I mean, it ends in a, it ends with friction, or where question mark is being stretched out by Scott Steiner, and Aaron Stevens really doesn't do anything about it. He kind of just hightails it to the back. His sensei there. Interesting to see what will come of that. It will be very interesting to see what will come of that. What will develop from the pay-per-view. Kind of, and for a moment there, I forgot that Ricky Starks was actually in the TV championship tournament. So which is kind of odd that they just had, Ricky Starks kind of attack Aaron Stevens last week, right? I mean, maybe it could have been someone else then if you knew that Ricky Starks was going to be in the TV tournament. I mean, especially knowing what you do know, what unfolded at the pay-per-view with Ricky Starks. So congratulations to Ricky Starks, who beat Trevor Murdoch to become the new NWA TV champion. I like this match in the sense of you were able to kind of see a side of Trevor Murdoch that you haven't seen in the NWA. You know, up until this point, I think you've seen a guy that really gave it his best try and lost in Trevor Murdoch, but really was never vicious. Didn't see that killer instinct. There are certain portions of this match with Ricky Starks that you kind of seen a different side of Trevor Murdoch, and that's the side I think that you need to see kind of his justification for, you know, being in this tournament, quite honestly, because one might argue that he doesn't even deserve being in this tournament because he only won, one match, pretty much, 2 matches coming into this tournament. So you kind of see that vicious side that you haven't seen before in his prior matches, which I liked, and that was highlighted. I also liked that the NWA did the smart thing with this. You know, you call your pay-per-view, you know, hard times. You focus it around the TV title. I like that they stick with that, and they made the match of Starks and Murdoch the main event. It's the one that goes last. Again, you're highlighting the importance of every title, you know, and, you know, you're highlighting the importance of that TV title. This is it. That was the main event where they could have probably, one might argue, they could have very easily, considering the storyline that was involved, make the Nick Aldis Flip Gordon match the main event. But they didn't do that, and I like that. I like that NWA kind of consistency. Consistency is key. You know, they've stuck with the consistency, and you know, making sure that match, Starks and Murdoch went on last. Speaking of which, Aldis and Flip Gordon, might argue co-main event, second to last match. I liked that match. It told a story, you know, working on old school wrestling, working on, you know, body parts, and, you know, it had a little bit of everything. You know, what I didn't like, again, is that, you know, Nick Aldis was able to make, although it paid out for Aldis, it worked for Aldis in the end. I didn't like that he made such a rash proposal like that. A rash proposal. But or not even if you say, well, it wasn't so rash. If you think about it, worst that's could happen would be Flip Gordon, NWA champion, but he's an ROH guy, so it was a rash decision. You might argue, you know, ROH had everything to lose. Listen, I think more of it, if you think about it, Aldis took a big risk. It worked out for him, but he took a big risk. That's why you kind of need a commissioner, I think, again, an on-air TV commissioner, to kind of step in and say, listen, this is not going to happen. I'm the boss. This is not for the best involved in NWA. You know, and I like the fact that, you know, the wrestlers, like Flip Gordon, the commentating team, I think did a very good job in highlighting, introducing these wrestlers to us. They, you know, something that like AEW doesn't really do. And now that's my major thing with AEW. You don't introduce the wrestlers, who they are, what they represent, really. In that quick montage for, you know, Flip Gordon, Dan Montiff, you already knew what they were about. Just that quick 1 or 2 minutes. And throughout the match, you know, Flip Gordon, you know, they built him up. Listen, Flip Gordon has come a long way, and the last time that he went up against Aldis, he's now under Marty. He's a different person, so on and so forth. So they really built up the characters from ROH, which is a good thing. They did a good job with that. They made, I think, the audience, they made me care and who these guys are in the ring, that they're not just some schleps from ROH. You know, and I like, you know, I like this whole thing with partnership of ROH, NWA. I just hope it's not a little bit too late for ROH, because they've been, you know, just going through some stuff, and that's not it's not the best of time for ROH. I think any ROH fan would tell you that. But I like the match. You know, it tell the story. It had a little bit of everything. Close falls, high-risk maneuvers. You're working on a body part. So it was a little bit of everything. I like that match. You know, and it also made Flip Gordon still look viable. Like, he gets beaten by Nick Aldis, but he's not destroyed. He's not jobbed out. I think it was like a roll-up or something, right? Speaking of roll-up, too, you know, what I didn't like is, again, something that really doesn't make sense to me. I mean, there are many teams that would have deserved that spot. Kind of, you know, how a team like how James Storm and Eli Drake get put in a three-way dance to you know, to win the tag team title. I don't like that. There's no really, at least I didn't catch it. What's the reasoning? What's the explanation? Why are they getting a shot? Why aren't the Dawsons getting an opportunity? Why not them? Heck, why not maybe, you know, even Kingston and you know, I don't know, a Homicide. Maybe if Homicide was better, maybe they could have gotten a tag team opportunity to be in that three-way dance. You know, I didn't really get that. I didn't like that they were just kind of, why? Because they asked, and it's like, okay, here you go. Here's your title opportunity. I didn't like that. I like the fact that they won. As much as I respect the Rock and Roll Express, it's time for, you know, it's time for a change. It's time for someone new. You need a younger, I guess, talent to represent the company. And you know, one thing that I noticed, like, about even like on this pay-per-view, and like in general in the tapings, there's certain times that it's where it's not the case, but more often than not, right? If you guys watch NWA Power, even like this pay-per-view, even when the wrestlers lose, the ones that lose, it's not like they're getting, like, you get the feeling like, oh, like they're getting jobbed out, they're getting embarrassed. Oh, what a brutal loss. How do you recover from that? You know, it's different. Like, a lot of times, you know, they're losing by like small packages, roll-ups, and it's an even match. And, you know, so it's not like, you know, they're being just squashed. Certain times they have those matches when it's needed. But for the most part, even if it seems like, to me, that even if a wrestler in the NWA is on a losing streak, for the most part, you can forget about it, really, put it on the back burner, and still continue to cheer for that wrestler and be vested in that wrestler the following week because, they lost by a small package. They lost because it was a roll-up. Their tights were being held on. So it's not like they're losing absolutely embarrassingly. You know what I mean? Like I kind of felt that way for Tim Storm, Rock and Roll Express, who were kind of rolled up. The Nick Aldis Flip Gordon match. So there's, it's like, all right, you're taking a loss, but, it was a respectable, it wasn't that bad of a loss type of deal, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I mean, and I'm also glad that finally, even though they lost again, they weren't pinned in the wild cards. Thunder Rosa, I don't know, if we're supposed to, again, the way that the high regards, and I get it to a point, the high regards that the crowd and the announcers were giving to Thunder Rosa against Allison Kay. I thought we were supposed to be cheering for Allison Kay. Am I wrong, or am I wrong? Or are we supposed to be cheering for Thunder Rosa? But Thunder Rosa is with Melina. She's the bad one. But then again, we already had a documentary about Thunder Rosa with her MMA fight, and I don't know, I'm confused. I'm just confused with Thunder Rosa. And the crowd, the TV audience, doesn't really help me. But it was a good pay-per-view for the money that you were paying. I think you got your money's worth. I think you definitely got your money's worth. So those were just some thoughts from Hard Times. Crockett Cup is coming out very soon in April. So I think that's good. You have a little bit of a breather, February, March, and then April. So you have a little bit of a breather. Doing these things, all having pay-per-views every month, it's not a good thing. So you're gonna have a little bit of a breather. I like what you have with this new major storyline, developing out of the Hard Times pay-per-view, where now Nick Aldis pretty much, whatever business with Scroll, Villain Enterprises, ROH, is kind of going through Nick Aldis. I like that, storyline. That's a major storyline. How the management, who is this management that's allowing Nick Aldis to do all these rash, without thinking decisions? I hope that's explained. But a lot to look forward with NWA coming up. Hope all is well, guys, and look to speak very, very soon.